Hello class, and welcome to Chapter 1, Lesson 3 of Adobe Illustrator. For this lesson, we're going to talk about working with objects and our smart guides. So the first thing that I want you guys to do is to open 1-2 from Chapter 1 and 1-3, as we will be working with both of these files. If you're not already there, you're going to go to File, Open, go to the Handout folder, go to Business Handouts, go to Computer Graphics, Illustrator, and Chapter 1, and open 1-2 and 1-3. So what we're going to start with is we're going to edit our essential preferences to be able to have the same results for every project that we do. So let's go to Preferences and General first, and I want you to make sure that your keyboard increment matches mine with 0.0139. The keyboard increment determines the distance a selected object moves when you guys hit the arrow key to move it. I also want you to make sure that all of your checkboxes match mine. So Show Tooltips, our anti-alias artwork, show the Start Workspace when no document is opened, append, double-click to isolate, transform pattern tiles, and scale strokes and effects. Then I want you guys to go to your preference menu, which is over here, and go to units. Let's make sure that our general is in inches, our stroke is in points, and our type is in points as well, and the object name is selected. Now we're going to go to our guides and grids and make sure that our color is cyan, our style is lines, and then for our grids we have light red and style lines, and every grid line is in 1 inch, and our subdivisions are in 8. We're going to put the grid and the back and show pixel grid above our 600% zoom are all selected. Now let's move on to our smart guides. We want our smart guides to be green. We want to make sure that alignment guides is selected, object highlighting is selected, and anchor paths are labeled. We can also have measurement labels selected and spacing guides. We want to make sure that our angle is 90 and 45. So we'll have 0, 45, and 90, and 135 selected down here. And our snapping tolerance is going to be 4 points. And finally, for our preferences, we are going to go to our user interface. And we are going to, we can change the brightness of our workspace if we would want to, but we'll leave it for this medium dark to start with. We're going to match the user interface with our brightness. Make sure that we have Open Documents as tabs selected, our large tabs, and for high PPI displays, scale the user interface. So we're going to scale to lower supported scale factors. And then our scroll buttons are at 2 ends. So make sure all these settings match. Then we're going to go ahead and hit OK so that we can get started with our first document. So we're going to start with 1-2. And I want you guys to go to File, Save As, and make sure you save on your H drive. So when you get over here, select your H drive, and you're going to save it as your last name, comma, first name, and then a space, dash space, and this one is going to be called Objects, and then you will hit Save. So then we are going to talk about how we can resize objects in Illustrator. So the first thing I want you to do is go to your View function and make sure that it says Show Bounding Box, that it doesn't say Hide Bounding Box. If it does, click it again. And then click out of our menu, and we're going to go to our Selection tool, click on our Selection tool, and select the pink square. So what you'll see is around the edge we have what's called our anchor points, our path, and then our center. Now I want you to go back to View and go ahead and select the Show Bounding Box. And what you'll notice is there's now 8 little open squares or handles that are going to allow us to adjust our picture. So what you can do is you can grab these squares and you can resize this in various aspects. but I want you to resize it and then go ahead and undo your scale function so that it goes back to the normal size. So now I'm going to show you how you can use your keys to allow the shape to be scaled differently. So if we hold down our Shift key and we grab from this top left-hand corner and we drag it out, it's going to resize our box proportionally no matter how our cursor may move up or down. So the box will still be proportionate, but we're still going to be able to enlarge it. So a Shift key allows us to resize proportionally. So now I want you to go to Edit and undo that scale. So now we're going to use our selection tool and select our green circle. But this time we're going to hold down our Alt key. And when we hold down our Alt key and we select any of our anchors and drag them, what it's going to do is it's going to resize our circle around our center. So we will be able to change the proportion of it, but it's always going to be resized around the center of the project. So you'll notice when I'm holding Alt, that center stays in the same spot. But if I'm not holding Alt and I try to resize, that center moves. So that is the difference on how we are going to be able to use those resizing functions. So let's go ahead and undo our scales so that our circle is back to the normal size. So now we're going to talk about how we can group or select all and adjust all of our objects. So we're going to go to Select, and we're going to select our All option. And you'll notice now that there's a bounding box around all three of our images. So now we can use that Control or the Shift or the Alt or just the regular anchors to resize our image. And we can make it smaller and we can make it larger. The next function that we have is very neat, and it will allow us to revert our file to the same functions as what it was the last time we saved it. So we're going to go to File and then Revert. And what that's going to do is it's going to ask us if we want to revert to the last saved version. And we are going to click Revert. Now this might take a second since it's trying to remember past information. So now I'll remind you that if you hold down your Shift key, it's going to resize an object proportionally. And if you hold down your Alt key, it's going to resize it from the center. So now we're going to talk about how we can copy and duplicate objects. So first we're going to come up to our View function again, and we're going to select Hide Bounding Box. Then we are going to use our Selection tool and click on our orange star. So we're going to go ahead and copy this star. We're going to do that by selecting Control and C. Then we can either paste by selecting Control V or come into Edit and select Paste. And you'll notice that it just puts it somewhere in our Art window. So let's go ahead and undo this paste and look at our other options. So we still have this image copied. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Edit. And we're now going to say, I want you to paste in front of whatever object I have selected. So let's change the color of this so that we can see where it's pasted. So we can click on our eyedropper tool in our toolbox, or we can select the eye on our keyboard, and it will select the eyedropper tool for us. And let's click on our pink square so that we can see that that star that is in the front that we pasted is now pink. Now what I want you to do is on your keyboard, click your right arrow 10 times to move this star over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our Edit option and select Paste in Back. So now we have another star that we've pasted behind, and we're going to use our eyedropper tool and select our green circle. So now we can see that we have our green circle selected. And we're going to move this one over to the left. So we're going to use our left arrow key and hit it 10 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what you'll see now is that we have our 3 stars pasted in our window. So what we are going to do now is we're going to talk about how we can make a copy of an image without actually having to do Control-V and our paste. So let's go back to our selection tool by clicking on here or using V on our keyboard. And we are going to hold down our Alt key and we're going to click on our circle first, and then hold down our Alt key, and we should be able to drag and drop a copy of that green circle onto our pink square. So go ahead and save your work and move on to our next file, which should be that 1-3. And 1-3 is going to be blank because we're going to talk about how to hide, lock, and group our objects together. So to start with, let's go ahead and go to Object and do Show All. And what you'll notice is now we have 3 objects that have appeared. We're going to go to our Selection tool and then click anywhere in our window in the white pasteboard to unselect those items. So what we're going to do now is we are going to click on our pink circle. And then we are going to click on the pasteboard to deselect. So now what we want to do is we want to group all of these items together. So let's click on our Select and deselect All, and then go to our Objects and select Group. So now all of these items are going to be grouped together. And you'll notice that if we click on our pasteboard and we click back on any of these objects, that all 3 of them show up. So that's where our Direct Selection tool comes in. We're going to go to our Direct Selection tool or click A. And this is when we can click on just one item, even if it is grouped together. So then we can come back to Select and select All, and then go to our Objects and Ungroup. So now, when we go to our Selection tool and we click on an item, it's only going to be one of those items that is selected. So we can also lock items so that they cannot be edited. So we can do that by using our Selection tool. Let's click on our small square, go to Object, and then go to Lock and Selection. So now our object is locked and it can no longer be selected. So we can unlock this by going to Object and Unlock All, and now our item is able to be selected again. So we are going to go ahead and click on our objects. And let's do Select first and Select All, and then click on our objects in the application bar and go to Hide. And you'll notice that we can hide all of our artwork or just our selection or other layers. I'm going to hide all of our objects again. Then we go back to Object, hit Show All, and all of them reappear. The second part of our function is to work with Smart Guides. So Smart Guides allow us to look at images based on their perspective location. What we are going to do is we are going to make sure that in View our Smart Guides are enabled, and which they are. And now we're going to click on our blue rectangle. So what we want to do is try and situate our blue rectangle in the middle of our image. So we're going to go ahead and hide by going to Object and hide our circle, and then hide our small square. Object, hide, and selection. So now what we can do is we can drag and drop our square to a point where it says center. So see that little green option that allows us to say center, to know that we are in the center of our image. And you can see as we're dragging it, it will get closer and then eventually